yappy, lazy, spoiled, and just as ditzy as their owners. Whether it be a Chihuahua, Pomeranian, Yorkie, Pug, Havanese, Maltese, no other pet has been as strongly associated with being a fashion accessory. Cats, absolutely not. Mice, lizards, snakes, maybe for the nerdy, eccentric types. But little dogs got an entirely different treatment. Somewhere along the way, they stopped being just pets and started becoming a part of an outfit. And I wondered how this happened because I have a purse dog, except for when he feels like walking. Lapdogs have a history of being regal companions for royalty, and now they wear matching outfits and have overtly cutesy names like Fifi. How did small dogs go from palace floors to oversized designer purses? We're going to look into the history of purse dogs. So now, let's get started. One of the earliest lapdogs traced back to ancient China. Pekingese dogs are one of the oldest breed of dogs, and they might be the first true lapdogs. They were so small they could fit in the sleeves of a man's robe. According to legend, their purpose was to act as hidden weapons, as a last line of defense for the emperor. This is the face of ferocity. They lived in the Chinese imperial palace, surrounded by absolute power and the highest levels of society. They also accented the royals' fashion. Some emperors had dogs whose coat matched specific garments. Not long after, pugs became another royal favorite in China. Over in ancient Rome, elite women would also carry Maltese dogs in their sleeves. They were so associated with high-status women that they earned the nickname the Roman lady's dog. Maltese were so small, Aristotle compared them to a marten. The Cavalier King Charles Spaniel was a favorite of English nobility in the 17th century, following the court almost everywhere, even into Parliament, and they reportedly had their own servants. King Charles II rarely appeared without his spaniels by his side, leading the breed to be named after him. Parliament member Samuel Pepys complained in his journal that the spaniels ran around during important state occasions, just barking away. All I observed, there was the silliness of the king, playing with his dog all the while, and not minding the business. But as long as they were a friend to a royal, little dogs could do whatever they wanted. Small dogs in royal spaces only became more prevalent. Queen Charlotte introduced Pomeranians to the English court in the 1760s, though they were much larger than they are today. In Queen Charlotte, a Bridgerton story, the dogs are described as looking like a deformed bunny, which is probably not far from how people reacted at the time. When Marie Antoinette reached the French border in 1770, there were reports that her beloved pug, Mops, was confiscated because nothing from her old life in Austria could cross with her. This may or may not have really happened. Some accounts say that Mops was later returned with the help of her husband, or that she was given a different pug, or that Mops never existed. What we do know is that during her reign, she had a dog named Pom Pom, believed to be either a Papillon or a small poodle, and a spaniel named Thisbe, who reportedly stayed with her during her imprisonment. In her palace days, she commissioned luxurious custom-made furniture for her dogs, including a gilded wood kennel. Alongside powdered hair and towering pastel dresses, toy dogs were another feature of the Rococo look. This was a proudly frivolous aesthetic, embraced by royalty and the rising social elite. And as luxury spread beyond the royal court, you didn't have to be a monarch to live like one. You could just look like you did. High society figures had to have lapdogs of their own. Small dogs matched perfectly with the ornate, stylized world of Rococo. In paintings depicting lavish leisure, spending your days being lazy in a ridiculously expensive dress, there's almost always a small fluffy dog in the painting. They were pets as well as living fashion accessories, sitting beside their owners with a matching, snooty expression. Arguably the most famous Rococo painting, The Swing, shows a little dog barking. You can barely see him, but he sounds the alarm to this secret love affair. I'm guessing he disapproved of who his mom chose. But outside of canvases, the dogs in Versailles were not well behaved. They chewed through expensive furniture, scratched up intricately designed sofas, and left muddy paw prints all over the floors. Lapdogs roamed freely through the halls, a part of the chaos of palace life. Now remember when Queen Charlotte's Pomeranians were much larger than they are today? Their modern pint size is influenced by her granddaughter, Queen Victoria. One of her favorite companions was a 12-pound Pomeranian, tiny for the time. Her influence was immediate. Breeders began selectively shrinking the breed, and over the course of her lifetime, Pomeranians were reduced by nearly 50% in size. But Queen Victoria didn't only change how dogs looked. She pioneered the image of the lapdog in clothes. Her favorite dog, a spaniel named Dash, was dressed in a scarlet jacket and blue trousers. And from there, fashionable dogs was the new trend. Luxury collars, decorative outfits, and fully accessorized pets started appearing more frequently, especially among the upper and growing middle classes. Around the 1890s, dogs on the streets of London were reported to be wearing coats, cuffs, and vests, often made by specialized dog tailors. Dogs in clothes, especially for smaller or short-haired dogs, kept them warm in the winter. But it was also a huge status symbol. You not only had a prestigious dog, but it was also well-dressed. With the founding of the American Kennel Club in 1884, the rise of dog shows, and royals like King Edward VII outfitting his pugs in diamond-studded collars and drinking from silver bowls, the image of the pampered toy dog became more visible than ever, and cinema got involved. In The Wizard of Oz, Toto, played by a Corinne Terrier named Terry, is carried around in Dorothy's picnic basket. So technically Toto is a purse dog, just a farm variant. Because they're seen as generally useless for any practical purposes like manual labor, toy dogs were depicted as overtly pampered, kind of lazy, and not even bothered to eat themselves. But the stereotype wasn't only about the dogs, but their owners. The typical image became the wealthy, idle rich, ladies who lunch type. Women with no job, meeting friends for midday meals on a workday. Technically, dogs weren't allowed in these spaces, but theirs were. These characters were typically written as not especially likable, either general snobs or the villain. Legally Blonde in 2001 would revolutionize and popularize the image of purse dogs and their owners. Bruiser is a Chihuahua and a Gemini vegetarian, like his mom. With Elle's Barbie-esque femininity and love of pink, he enhances Elle's LA girly aesthetic, dressed in clothes as stylish as hers. But what makes Bruiser work isn't just the aesthetic, but the contrast. Elle walks into Harvard Law with a purse dog, a bright pink wardrobe, and zero interest in turning it down. By the time you get to Legally Blonde 2, Red, White, and Blonde, Elle's in Washington, still dressed head to toe in her pink Jackie O suit, still carrying Bruiser in a bag, completely visually clashing with the stuffy political world around her. And again, that contrast is the point. Also, Gidget, the Taco Bell dog, played Bruiser's mom. And in Legally Blondes, Elle gives her cousins identical Chihuahuas who apparently were left alone until they arrived. Don't do that. But culturally, Legally Blonde reshaped the image of the purse dog owner. Not just a lady who lunches, but young, girly, and rather underestimated. Inspired by the image of Elle Woods, Paris Hilton propelled the purse dog trend over the top. With the paparazzi following her every move, she was regularly accompanied with her Chihuahua, Tinkerbell. At that point, the line was blurred between pet and fashion accessory. She wore Chanel, so did her dog. And this dog never walked, always carried around or tucked in a designer purse. Tinkerbell was kind of a trademark to Hilton's public image, which revolved around a hedonistic, carefree, luxurious lifestyle. What better way to be a permanent adornment to her outfit that will be on the cover of a tabloid the next day? Tinkerbell was arguably the most famous dog of the time, regularly seen on the reality show The Simple Life, though Nicole Richie's dogs, Shih Tzu, Honeychild, and Pomeranian Foxy Cleopatra would make later appearances. They sort of started a revolution. Hilton's aunt, Kyle Richards, commented that she saw girls saying, "Come here, Tinkerbell," to their little dogs. By 2004, the very concept of the purse dog was unavoidable. If it barks, you can stick it in your purse or carry it in your arms. Consider yourself on the cutting edge of a trend. Leslie Sue also stated, "Every woman in New York, from Upper East Side socialites to East Village hipsters, is carrying one." Handbags were getting bigger, which meant there was room for everything you needed, including your 7-pound dog. Chihuahuas especially were the purse dogs. Part of it was practical. They're one of the smallest dog breeds, but they also tend to have a bit of a temper and can get snappy. The blend of a big personality and a little dog contributed to the maximalist, in-your-face image of the McBling aesthetic. Your accessory could have a personality. In the paparazzi era, plenty of celebs were photographed carrying a little dog. Britney Spears had a Pomeranian, Chihuahua, and Maltese. Mariah Carey also had a Maltese and Jack Russell Terriers. Beyoncé had a Shih Tzu, and the list goes on and on. Little dogs used to live in the sleeves of ancient elite societies. They now live in the purses of A-listers in Malibu. And the world of fashion knew they had to catch this trend while they could. Brands like Gucci, Hermes, and Louis Vuitton created luxury dog carriers. There were some dedicated dog clothes stores in LA. An Angora dog sweater could cost up to $400, and a diamond-studded dog collar could cost around $2,000. This is where the purse dog and their owners became a new pop culture stereotype. At best, they were aspirational. The girls of my scene were basically walking mood boards for early 2000s cool, and they all had purse dogs, except Delancey, who had a cat. But at worst, purse dog owners were spoiled, out of touch, airheaded snobs. They didn't treat their dogs like actual dogs, but in addition to their outfits, leading to annoying, yappy behavior. London Tipton's Pomeranian, Ivana, frequently matched her outfits, and Sharpay Evans' tiara-wearing Yorkie, Boy, were extensions of extravagance. Beverly Hills Chihuahua was a movie franchise centered on the purse dog phenomenon, but the dogs pushed back against it. They proudly proclaimed they are not a fashion accessory. And in the social media era, you see all sorts of dogs living lavish lifestyles, and some even have dedicated social media pages. They're less like perfectly styled accessories and more like tiny companions with personalities. Still dressed up, still carried around, but now framed as friends instead of props. The concept of treating dogs as accessories started to feel like something from the past. Conversations around animal welfare and ethical breeding became more common. The purse dog trend did elicit a real issue with animal welfare, with the demand for teacup dogs, even tinier versions of already small dogs, typically weighing under 5 pounds. These dogs can suffer from low blood sugar, fragile bones, and chronic health issues. Some dogs are naturally born teacups, that does happen, but intentionally breeding teacups is unethical for prioritizing a very small aesthetic over an animal's health. Now, there's more awareness around how these dogs are bred and where they come from. And to answer the big question, why do little dogs tend to be sort of annoying? It's not that these breeds are just naturally more yappy or excitable, it's more that their owners didn't train them. Whether subconsciously or not, owners may not see their lapdog as a quote-unquote real dog, so they don't feel the need to teach them anything. Because these dogs weren't raised well, they're naturally going to act crazy in public, yapping and barking whenever they feel like it. And smaller dogs sort of have a Napoleon complex. They either aren't sure how small they are, or they want to overcompensate by barking to appear larger. But small dogs are very much real dogs and need to be trained like any other. Do little dogs even like being carried in purses? The boring answer is some do, some don't. If a dog looks calm and comfortable being carried around, that's usually your answer. Little dogs can feel overwhelmed walking in busy streets, so seeing an elevated view of their surroundings helps them relax. For centuries, toy dogs have been everything. Royal companions, fashion statements, status symbols, influencers, but really, they're pets. They're your friends. That's all I have for the history of purse dogs. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next one.